If you come to England and you only have time to look at one garden, this is the garden you simply must come to. This is the most famous of the lot and certainly the most interesting, and that is Sissinghurst. Now this garden belonged to a very, very interesting couple. Everybody seems to know Vita Sackville-West, that's the wife, and the husband was Harold Nicholson. They were fairly wealthy. She brought a lot of money with her and there was titles involved and so on. And they bought this garden as a set of ruins, ruined buildings, and set on, well, I suppose half a lifetime's work, about 30 odd years of work to get this to perfection. Now they were a fascinating couple. He was involved in the diplomatic service. She wrote books, was very artistic and so on. But they led unconventional lives. Both took same-sex lovers. In fact, she was involved with Virginia Woolf for a while. She was the romantic. She was the one that finessed the colours, had great skills in that regard. He was rather more formal. It was Harold who set out the axes and grids and the basic design of the garden. Together, there was a wonderful difference between them, a fabulous tension in terms of design and creativity, and you're just about to see the end result of that process. Well, this is the South Cottage Garden in Sissinghurst, largely called that name because this happens to be the South Cottage. Harold used to sit out here. This was one of his favourite spots for looking out. The colours here are the hot colours. Now, a lot of these plants may not grow where you live in Australia, some will. It doesn't really matter what they are, it's the use of colours here and perhaps textures to an extent too that is important. This section, the Lime Walk or the Spring Garden, was known by Harold as MLW, My Life's Work. Interesting little contrast because his wife Vita regarded this as being something like whatever it was, Platform 9 at Charing Cross Station. It's just a straight line. These are lime trees, not the citrus varieties. These are tilia, the lime trees, and they're pleached, which means that they're sort of pruned up so that you have the trunks and then just a solid line, a raised line of foliage. It's rather a lovely walk. Some of you may be wondering why Sissinghurst is so famous, so well remembered. They probably didn't pioneer that much here. What they did was get everything right. The use of colours, well, it just doesn't get any better than this. Vita spent a long time putting plants in, getting colours right, making mistakes, fixing it up. The succession of garden rooms, I think Harold called it a succession of intimacies or something like that. They are intimate areas, they're just the right size. You don't feel like you're in a public park and that some giant animal might come and attack you or something. You feel enclosed and comfortable, beautifully done. Everything about this garden is just right, and the axes and the grids. The thing about a lot of the bigger gardens in Australia is they don't get the axes and grids right. When you look back along the straight pathways at the end, there's something to see, a nice pot with a flower, a statue of perhaps some legendary Greek person or whatever it might be. Wherever you look, it's absolutely right. So there's a lot of lessons to get here. This is the one garden in the world maybe where just about everything is done as well as it can be done. The property is now owned by the National Trust here in Britain, but Vita and Harold's son Nigel still lives here. Now he's getting on, but in fact we're just about to meet the grandchildren. That is Adam and Juliet. Well, what's it like to have two such distinguished grandparents?
I am immensely proud to have two such distinguished grandparents. It's quite a thing to live up to.
Are either of you keen gardeners?
No, neither of us know anything about it.
We can't tell the difference from a daffodil to a tulip. But I too am aware of the tremendous influence that this specific garden has had. But as Adam says, you know, without the visitors and without the sort of fan base, as it were, the place becomes unviable.
Well, thank goodness that it's been preserved.
It is, thank goodness. I mean, it would have been the saddest thing, can you imagine, that they started here in 1930. She died in 1962 and he died in 1968. And then the idea that that would just all kind of collapse, you know, everything that they'd thought about and loved and cherished. So It is. The National Trust is a great, great institution.